The subtropical jet stream is surging back to life across the United States, and that means one thing: significant weather is on the way. At US Storm Center, we're tracking every development so you stay ahead of what's coming this week. To understand this week's weather story, we start with the jet stream. This powerful river of air high above us carries energy across the country, and where that energy goes, weather follows. Right now, we're watching a large and well-organized storm system sitting just off the west coast, and it's already beginning its move inland. The jet stream has split into two distinct branches this week. One branch, the subtropical jet, is pushing across the southern tier of the country. The other is racing across Canada to the north. Meteorologists call this a split flow pattern, and it's important because it sets the stage for a dramatic change in weather across a large portion of the country over the coming days. That storm off the west coast will be the first to make its presence known. Before it reaches the interior of the country and fires up severe weather potential, it will unload heavily on California and the Pacific Northwest. Residents there should prepare for significant rainfall, with higher mountain elevations receiving substantial snowfall. This is a multi-day rain event for the west coast, and flooding will be a concern in some low-lying areas. Moisture is the fuel that feeds powerful thunderstorms, and right now, that fuel is on its way back. Looking at dew point maps, which measure how much moisture is in the air, much of the country starts the week on the dry side. Dry air shows up in brown tones across the map, while green signals the return of Gulf moisture. That green is spreading northward, and by Tuesday afternoon it begins pushing into the central plains in a meaningful way. By Wednesday, dew points rise noticeably across the Midwest. Warmer, moister air at the surface combined with the energy from that approaching jet stream creates the kind of instability that produces severe thunderstorms. The atmosphere is essentially loading up, and forecasters are paying close attention. One of the most critical features to watch this week is the development of a dry line across West Texas. A dry line is a boundary where moist Gulf air collides head-on with hot, desert-dry air pushing in from the west. This clash of air masses is one of nature's most reliable triggers for explosive thunderstorm development. As we move into Thursday and Friday, this dry line becomes the main focal point for severe weather across the region. While forecasters are not expecting a historic tornado outbreak, this week at Bryce Capri, conditions will be favorable for organized severe thunderstorms. The primary threats will include large hail, damaging straight-line winds, and the possibility of a few tornadoes. Anyone living from West Texas northward through Oklahoma and Kansas needs to remain weather-aware and have a plan in place throughout the second half of the week. By Thursday and Friday, the severe weather corridor expands eastward. The main threat zone stretches from Iowa southward through Oklahoma and into the Ark-La-Tex region. That's the area where Arkansas, Louisiana, and Texas meet. Storms pushing through this area can be particularly dangerous, as they tend to move at night when visibility is lower and people are, less likely to be monitoring the forecast. Stay alert and make sure your weather alerts are active on your phone. Cold fronts act like a broom in the atmosphere, sweeping warm, unstable air out of the way. Later in the week, a cold front will push the Gulf moisture eastward, extending the storm threat into the south and southeast by the weekend. Residents from the Mississippi Valley through the Carolinas should keep an eye on the forecast heading into Saturday. Now let's talk rainfall totals, because there is some genuinely good news buried inside this active weather pattern. Drought has been a persistent problem across parts of the southern United States, and this system is going to deliver some meaningful relief. Texas is in line for a 2-act rainfall event. Rain arrives early in the week, there's a brief pause as the system reorganizes, and then the storms return with more punch later. South Texas in particular could see rainfall totals between 2 and 4 inches, with locally higher amounts possible. Flooding will be a concern in areas that receive the heaviest rainfall in a short period of time. Across the Central Plains, widespread totals of a ½ to 1 inch are expected, with locally higher amounts wherever severe storms fire. For the drought-stricken areas of the south-central United States, every drop counts, and this pattern is a welcome one even if it comes with some risk. Out west, the storm system will be generous with its precipitation. California and the northern Rockies can expect 1 to 3 inches of liquid-equivalent rainfall, with higher amounts in mountain corridors. As for snowfall, the Sierra Nevada could see up to a couple of feet of snow. Outstanding news for water resources heading into the warmer months. The Rockies are also looking at a foot or more of accumulation in higher terrain. Ski resorts won't be complaining. The Northeast is not left out of this week's weather story, though its chapter is a quieter one. Light precipitation arrives Monday, and there's a chance for some light snowfall in the northern tier of the region. Think northern New England and upstate New York. Accumulations will be minor, but temperatures will be cold enough early in the week to keep frost and freezing conditions in play across parts of the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. Freeze warnings are in effect for some areas early in the week, so protect sensitive plants and pipes. Temperature contrasts this week are dramatic and, honestly, worth highlighting. The northeastern United States will stay cool and seasonal, with overnight temperatures dropping below freezing in many areas early in the week. Meanwhile, the Central Plains will experience a rapid and significant warm-up. Temperatures there will surge into the 80s and 90s as southerly winds pump warm air northward ahead of the approaching storm system. That temperature contrast between the cool north and the hot plains actually helps enhance the energy available for severe weather. The southeast is enjoying pleasant conditions through much of the week, warm temperatures, a light breeze, and mostly dry skies, though that changes as the storm system pushes eastward into the weekend. For space weather watchers, there's a minor update worth noting. Solar activity remains quiet this week, with only a small and simple sunspot visible on the solar disk, a coronal hole, a region where the sun's magnetic field allows solar wind to escape more freely. Has produced some minor geomagnetic disturbances. That activity has pushed the aurora borealis, or northern lights, slightly further south than usual. If you're in the northern United States or Canada, clear skies overnight could reward you with a faint display. Solar flare risk remains low. Stepping back and looking at the bigger picture, this week's weather pattern represents a meaningful shift for the country. The return of Gulf moisture, the arrival of a dynamic storm system from the Pacific, and the clash of air masses across the southern plains all combine to produce an active, significant weather week across a large portion of the United States. The most important takeaway: be prepared. If you live anywhere from the southern plains through the Mississippi Valley and into the southeast, make sure you have multiple ways to receive weather alerts. Know where you will go if a tornado warning is issued in your area. Charge your devices, have a plan for your family, and check back with us here at U.S. Storm Center as conditions evolve. We'll be tracking this storm system every step of the way, with updates on severe weather timing, rainfall totals, and any changes to the forecast as new data comes in. Stay safe out there.